Hi there. Welcome to Studio Movie Recap. Today we going to recap war thriller film, Mine. The movie opens with a hardened Marine in full camouflage saying goodbye to a young lady at the airport, as he prepares to take off on his next mission in a helicopter. In the following scene, the Marine Mike is perched atop a cliff overlooking the desert as his spotter Tommy chats away. Mike remains alert and serious as they see several people walking on one side of the cliff and several armed vehicles approaching on the other. The description given for the target don't match up with what they're actually seeing, so Mike hesitates. At this point, Tommy and a voice on the radio are trying to convince him to hit the target, but he realizes that it's a wedding and the target could be the groom's father. Adding to the confusion is that the target is behind the groom and he doesn't know if he has a son, so his orders are to kill the groom and get the target. He drops the mission and lies that he's lost the target, but then he's spotted by armed lookouts who are protecting the wedding. They start shooting each other back and forth, and Mike and Tommy retreated since they are outnumbered and ran away with the enemies chasing them. They hide behind huge rock, after the enemies starts tracing their whereabouts. Mike shoots a cliff to sidetrack them. They escape through a diversion created by Mike and they ask for evacuation. They're told they must cross the desert ahead of them to reach a village where someone can pick them up. It takes them 4 hours to get there, and they're surrounded by armed enemies and the elements. Through their journey we learn that Tommy has a wife and son at home, and that Mike has a girlfriend named Jenny. We also learn that Mike was a quiet guy, while Tommy was a talkative one. Tommy calls his son every Tuesday of each month, so that kept him going and motivates him to be alive so he can continue bonding with his son. Tommy knew that something was eating Mike inside, but he doesn't know what it was. Mike is having trouble making the big move of asking his girlfriend to marry him, which Tommy keeps poking fun at. After they've waited out the sandstorm, the warning sign spins in the wind and comes right at Mike's feet. He takes it and tries to understand what it meant. He takes it literally, saying out loud how many mines there are in the desert, while Tommy tells him it's a Berber tactic to keep enemies out and that it means they're getting closer to where they're going. He starts to walk freely, joking about how he's thirsty, and Mike gives him his water to drink, much to Tommy's delight. Mike meanwhile is still walking carefully. His mind is still on the warning sign he just saw. A few yards ahead of him, rejuvenated by the water he just drank, Tommy is walking recklessly, joking about how Mike thinks too much. Mike pauses for a split second to try and remember something, but before he can, the mine he's just stepped on explodes. Mike goes temporarily deaf and takes a step toward Tommy, only to hear another click where his foot has just landed. The sand from the blast starts to clear out and a ringing sound sets in their ears. We see that Tommy has survived the explosion but lost both his legs below the knees. Oblivious to everything, he's screaming for Mike. Mike is unable to move himself, struggles to calm Tommy down. Tommy's panic elevates another notch when he sees the state of his legs and he starts to scream even louder. When nothing seems to work, Mike brings up Tommy's son, which cuts through his panic and gives him reasons to continue fighting. Mike instructs him to inject himself with the morphine Marines carry in their front pocket to make the pain in the legs go away. He persists until he gets the morphine and injected himself. In his agony, he reaches for the second tube of morphine, and despite Mike's continuous warnings to stop, he injects himself for the second time. Overcome with emotions and high on an overdose of morphine, Tommy decides to end his misery and shoots himself in the head while Mike watches helplessly. The remainder of the movie comprises Mike trying to survive the desert, unable to move. He also landed in one of the sand mines, and if he moves he will suffer the same fate as his friend Tommy. He has to stand in that same position until someone helps him. The first thing he realizes is that the radio is still next to Tommy, who's several yards away. He gets creative with what he has on his person and uses his shoelaces to grab the radio. Mike is able to contact his commanding officer. He is told that the closest time they can pick him up through land is in 52 hours. The major tells him he should try digging a ditch and jumping in it, which would only result in a non-life-threatening limb loss. Mike decides to tough it out and wait for rescue, setting a countdown on his watch. After some time he realizes that the battery is dead, and the spare is on Tommy's body. Another sandstorm hits full force. He manages to wait it out without moving from his spot. Once it's over, the first thing he realizes is that the storm has brought Tommy's body, and therefore the spare battery moved right next to him, yet the radio has drifted too far from his reach. After a while Mike tries to commit suicide to relieve himself from misery he's in, But his love for Jenny, his girlfriend, keeps him going. Within the next few hours, a seemingly half-witted Berber comes shuffling along from over the hill Mike's facing. Completely ignoring the lethal danger Mike is in by walking zigzag, he makes fun of him for not moving on and goes on his way, without even giving him water, let alone his radio. Later, a little girl shows up carrying Mike's flask, which the Berber had taken. She hands it to Mike, and to his relief, it's full with water. Although the girl never speaks, using her toy soldiers, she seemingly tells Mike that he has to step off the mine and move on. In his desperation to get to the radio, Mike gets too loud and tells the girl to bring him the radio. The girl got scared and ran away. At night, Mike looks up on his phone gallery and sees his girlfriend's video that she secretly took before Mike left for the mission, stating how much she loves and believes in him. That gives Mike all the courage he needs to keep fighting for survival. At midnight, a bunch of hyenas came and tried to kill Mike, but he managed to defend himself successfully and scared away the hyenas. They ended up leaving with Tommy's dead body for food. After the first night, the Berber stops by following a zigzag pattern like before to avoid the mines. He tells Mike how lucky he is for surviving as long as he has. Mike's out of patience with him. But the Berber seems to get less half-witted as he questions Mike's life choices, constantly pushing him to stop being scared and move on. The following night, the hyenas came and they were scavenging for Mike's body. He again managed to show his heart and fight the hyenas, but this time he was left with lots of scars on his body, as he was exhausted the following morning. Hungry and dehydrated, Major Captain tells him on the radio that his rescue had been delayed by several hours. He decides to call and leaves his final message to his girlfriend apologizing for his actions. He accepted defeat and now was ready to give up, as he was collapsing and endangering himself from the bomb. Berber catches him seemingly arriving out of nowhere and nurses his wounds and gives him water to drink. He reveals to Mike that he once stepped on a mine himself and lost one of his legs. He shows him his wooden leg. He says he vainly thought his life was over when it happened, as no woman in her right mind would look at a one-legged man twice. Except he met his wife on that very hospital stay from losing his leg. He's been blessed with a happy marriage and beautiful children since then. We learn that he doesn't actually know where the mines are. He's just taking his chances going in zigzags. It was him, the Berber himself, that brought Mike the water. Mike was hallucinating all along about his daughter bringing him water. He tells Mike that he no longer has a daughter. She died in a mine explosion during one of their father-daughter excursions to dig out mines and replace them with tin cans. Mike listens dumbfounded. The Berber tells him he's happy his daughter came to meet Mike, but he really needs to move on now. Then he leaves him for good this time. As he gets more and more tired, sleep-deprived and beaten down by the elements, he starts hallucinating. He gets flashbacks from his past of events and people that have haunted him all his life. We find that he suffered a lot in the hands of his father as a child, both physically and mentally, and was a constant witness to domestic violence in his own home. He thinks of himself as a coward for becoming a Marine and leaving his mom in the hands of an abusive husband only to return when she was terminally ill. He also doesn't think he's worthy of Jenny, which seems to be the reason behind his hesitation to propose. The way he sees it, he has only brought problems to the relationship, while Jenny was nothing but patient, constructive, and loving. At that moment, he hears on the radio that the rescue team is passing by his whereabouts right now, and they need him to make his exact location known as they can't stop to look for him. Simultaneously, Mike starts to get shot at by two people over the hill. He sees that the one thing he can use to signal his location is the flare, which is out of his reach. He fights off the enemies which try to kill him and shoots both of them. We find out that before she passed away, her mother lovingly gave him her blessing to move on with his life. As he was shooting, he disconnects from reality completely. His father confronts Mike in the desert. First, he mocks and challenges him, but he gets emotional after a while, in a way apologizing for all he's done. Mike is about to shoot him, but he doesn't, and they hug each other in tears. He tries to reach for the flare to signal his team but is unable to. He decides to move away from the mine this time. He didn't care if he exploded. After he did, nothing happens. There's no explosion. He finds out that the mine he'd stepped on was in fact a tin can, probably placed there by the Berber's daughter when she was alive. He never stepped in mine, and Berber's daughter that he saw tried to tell him, but he didn't understand. Relieved and happy to be alive despite the non-lethal gunshot wounds he sustained in the standoff with the two hostiles, he had all mixed emotions and was happy that life gave him second chance to do things right this time. He shoots the flare and is rescued. Back home at the airport, Jenny is waiting for him with happy tears in her eyes. Even before hugging her, he drops to one knee in front of her and proposed. Did you enjoy the recap? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be updated next time we drop. Thanks for watching.